Hello, in this video I thought that I'd like to show you the new French tanks coming up in, whatever the next one is, patch 9.7 of World of Tanks. But unfortunately I wasn't able to get any games in the low tier tanks, so instead I'm only going to show you games from the AMX 30 prototype and the AMX 30B at tier 9 and 10. And well, I'll just talk to you a little bit now about the low tier tanks. At tier 2 we have the FCM 36 and the R35. They were both designed to meet the same requirement as the H35, which is already in the game at tier 2. And these three tanks are actually pretty similar, as in I'm pretty sure they've all got the same top gun. They're all heavily armoured, they're all slow. And, well, I guess that's all we really need to know about those ones. The FCM 36 and the R35, the two new tier 2 tanks, both lead on to the AMX 38, which then turns into the French light tank line. And of course the AMX 30 and the AMX 30B come off that. Whereas now the H35 leads on to the Saumur S35, which, well, I haven't played it as I said, but it looks like it's actually going to be a pretty awesome tank at tier 3. I can see two ways of looking at it. You can either look at it as a D2, which is the current French tier 3 medium tank. It's got the same gun as those, but it's faster, and it's got, I actually think it's got better armour from memory. Yeah, it does. It's got better armour, the same gun, it's faster, and it's a smaller target to hit than the D2. So I think the S35 will be very powerful at that tier. And even if you compare it to the B1, the tier 4 French heavy tank, the S35, again, it has the same gun. It's actually got pretty similar armour, and it's faster, and it's a tier lower than the B1 heavy tank. So, as I said, I'm expecting that one to be quite a performer at tier 3. At tier 4 you have the SARL 42, which I'm not really sure what to make of it. It's a medium tank, and, well, it's painfully slow. Well, it seems painfully slow, as I said, I haven't driven it. And its armour's alright. It's getting a bit weak by tier 4. Actually, I think it's slightly weaker than the S35 at tier 3. But the one thing this tank has is that it's got a 75mm gun at tier 4. And yeah, it basically gets the pretty standard 75mm gun, 100 odd penetration, 100 odd damage. And I guess that's the one good thing about this tank. At tier 5 we have the G1R, which has the exact same gun as on the SARL 42, but now it gets a bit faster, gets a bit better power to weight ratio, and it gets a bit better armour. But I still think that would actually be a pretty decent tank at that tier. And of course this line now leads on to the French heavy tank line, or as well as the current way of getting onto it, so that joins on at the ARL 44. And, well, on to the replays. First up we have the AMX 30, which, well, I should say the AMX 30 prototype. And I'll start off by saying that this tank, it's quite similar to the Leopard prototype, which is in the German medium tank line, because initially both the Leopard and this tank both developed out of the idea of the two countries, France and Germany, building a single tank for both their needs. Unfortunately that didn't work out, so the French and Germans built two separate types of tanks. So the AMX 30 prototype here, as you can see, it's very fast. It's got a 105mm gun, which has pretty good DPM, it's very accurate, and has a decent rate of fire. Decent penetration, decent damage, it's 105mm. And on top of it, I haven't actually checked, but both these tanks seem to have very good gun depression. I miss a shot there, but believe me, it's actually quite accurate. I'm just not quite used to playing with nearly 400 ping. And yeah, well, the downside of this AMX 30 prototype, well, as you said, for that last tank there, it just doesn't have very good armour. So it's a bit of a sniper more than anything. Well, it's a sniping medium with the speed to relocate onto enemies' flanks quickly, or fall back or advance if the situation's changing. And it does pretty well in that role. Compared to the Leopard 1, the Leopard 1 prototype, this tank has slightly thicker armour, but not really enough to make any difference when you're being shot at. I suppose it might help with overmatching, but not by much. In exchange for that, it's a bit worse in mobility, but again, not by a lot. I think they've got the same top speed, but this one's got a lower hull traverse. Oh, and the AMX 30 prototype also does get slightly better DPM than the Leopard prototype, but again, not by much. It's just a case of these two tanks, the Leopard prototype and the AMX 30 prototype, are very similar. Bounced off the front of an American tank destroyer there, but it's not surprising. I pulled back when I should have waited just 1 second more. I would have got a clean shot in, but I don't know. Wasn't really thinking properly. Managed to put a shot into the side of the turret there. At least I think I did. Lost a lot of health. And luckily, when my team did the smart thing, we were attacking it from 3 sides at once. So these guys aren't going to do well. There's another AMX 30 prototype. As you see, it's not really able to withstand the fire from myself and this other one. Partly due to the fact that we've got pretty high penetration guns and it's got very little armour. Anyway, this one is the AMX 30B, the tier 10 medium tank. And again, it's very much like the Leopard in game. It moves around pretty quickly. It's actually got the same 105mm gun as on the AMX 30 prototype, but it's a little bit more accurate on this B version at tier 10. And this tank's, well, it's much the same as the prototype. It's got good speed, good gun, good accuracy, good aim time, good penetration. Armour's not particularly great, so you're going to play it much the same way, in that it's a sniping medium with the potential to flank if your situation allows it. Compared to the Leopard for the Germans, this tank again, it's got better armour, and the Germans have the better gun and better mobility this time. The Germans slightly win on penetration and I think also rate of fire, which gives them a little bit better DPM this time around. Oh, and also aim time. Germans aim quicker. But as you see, this one aims well enough. And I should say again, when I say this has got thicker armour than the Leopard, from memory it's only got 80mm on the front, which isn't going to bounce a lot at this tier, but it might help for overmatching the like. When you're presenting a very heavily angled surface, you'll be more likely to get bounces than with the Leopard. But that's about all that I was going to use for. You see me here trying to snipe over the ridgeline at these enemy tanks. I managed to get a few shots in. And luckily the AMX 30 is exposing itself. It's just got a big cupola on the top of the turret, which you can see easily over ridge lines. I mean, I wouldn't really call it a weak point, since well, basically the entire tank's a weak point. But it is still kind of an obvious thing to shoot at, that the enemy will probably be able to shoot at on your tank before you'll be able to shoot at them. I've spotted a 112 over the other side of this ridge, and I was thinking of going over and shooting at it, but I saw these other tanks behind it and decided it wasn't wise quite now. So I come around the side and I put some shots into the pattern, since I can. Now I have no idea where that shell went, but hopefully this one will do a bit better. Yep, 400 damage. Let's look at me, so I pull back and aim for its cupola just to expose as little as my tank as possible. But my shot flies true and I get the kill there. And that was artillery hitting me. And well, I suppose that's the other reason that the extra 80mm of armour would be good for is that it might be enough to start stopping artillery shells from penetrating if you're lucky, and even if it also protects a bit better against near misses. So actually, yeah, consider that a strength of this tank. It's a bit more artillery resistant than the Leopards. You know, spotting out the artillery. I stop to take a shot, and I get one damage in, and there's the artillery piece that shot at me, so I'm reversing to try and get a bit of vengeance. But it's just not to be. Well, only a few tanks left on the enemy team, so well, let's just chase after them. No one on my team stopped to cap, so that's good. I mean, look at how much we're winning. We're winning 11-4, so we really don't need to cap if we... Well, we don't need to cap at all. Those two are behind the ridge, but this Panzer E100 is not. Unfortunately, I just don't seem to be doing any damage. So my team get the kill there. There's only those two enemy tanks left, and that T-54 took a shot at me, which it wasn't very nice of it, but it did miss. So now it's just using the speed of this tank to run down the last two enemy tanks. And there's the AMX 30B. Not going to have a shot on that one for a while, so it's on the other side of the railway tracks. But the E100 should be around here somewhere. There it is. And I didn't take the shot there just because I thought it was... didn't have much hope of hitting, but in hindsight I probably should have, since I would have reloaded by about now anyway. Then I was charging from its gun, take a shot, take a hit and return, but it's the end of the game, I figure I can do that. And well, the E100 dies thanks to our B215B183. And well, that's the end of this game. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it informative, and I'll see you all next time.